morning, students. Welcome to today's lesson, Introduction to Chemistry, Lesson 3. Our lesson is about the heating effects of the luminous and non-luminous flames. In our previous lesson, we discussed about the differences between the luminous and non-luminous flame, whereby we talked about the luminous flame having 4 zones, while the non-luminous has 3. Luminous flame is sooty. The non-luminous flame is not sooty. The luminous flame is long and wavy and yellow in color, while the non-luminous flame is short and steady and blue in color. Now, from there, we want now to know which among these two flames is preferred for heating in the laboratory and why. So the first experiment we are going to look at is a case whereby we are going to place 30 centimeters cubed of water in 200 ml beakers. Then we shall place one beaker to be heated using a luminous flame, and the other will be heated using a non-luminous flame, as shown in the diagram below. This is what is observed after some time. You realize that the water that was heated using a luminous flame took longer to boil than the water heated using a non-luminous flame. That tells us that the non-luminous flame is hotter than the luminous flame. Something else that was observed in this experiment is that the beaker heated using a luminous flame is covered with soot, while the beaker heated using a non-luminous flame remains clean. This can be explained in the video below.
So you can see that the water that was heated using a non-luminous flame has boiled faster. And then if you observe the beaker that we are heating using the non-luminous flame, it is very clean, while the one that we're using the luminous flame is what? Dirty. It is covered with soot.
The conclusion is that the non-luminous flame is hotter than the luminous flame, and the luminous flame produces soot, which makes apparatus dirty when used for heating. Therefore, the luminous flame is used for lighting, and an example is the candle flame and the flame from the lantern lamps. So, we conclude that the non-luminous flame is preferred for heating in the laboratory because of 2 reasons. Number 1, it is hotter, and number 2, it does not produce soot. It does not produce soot. Now see some photos of a candle and a lantern lamp below, showing how the luminous flame produced by the two is used to light a place because they produce a lot of light. Then from there we move on to the hottest part of a luminous flame. This is our experiment number 2. Now that we have concluded that the non-luminous flame is the hottest flame, then we ask ourselves, which is the hottest part of this non-luminous flame? Now the experiment will involve slipping a piece of manila paper into a non-luminous flame in the region labeled region 1 and quickly removing the paper before it catches fire. Then we shall slip another paper, white manila paper, into region 2 of the non-luminous flame as shown in the diagram below, and we shall quickly remove the paper before it catches fire. The above experiment is repeated using a wooden splint, and the results are as shown below. Now it is noted that the paper is partially burned in the regions that are in contact with the pale blue zone. So those parts which are in contact with the pale blue zone, they are burnt. And also, when the manila paper is slipped in and out of region 2 of the non-luminous flame, it burns uniformly. The flame burns uniformly. So, we conclude that in this experiment, it shows that the outermost zone in a non-luminous flame is hotter than the inner zones. Therefore, whenever an object is being heated, it should never be placed close to the base of the flame where it is cool. Instead, place it in contact with the pale blue outer zone, which is the hottest zone in the non-luminous flame. Now, let's look at this question. Why is the non-luminous flame preferred for heating in the laboratory? So from what we learned in the first experiment, whenever the non-luminous flame is used for heating, then in that case we were looking at water boils faster, and also the apparatus being used for heating remains clean. So those are the two reasons why we prefer using the non-luminous flame for heating in the laboratory. So reason number 1, it does not dirtify the apparatus. Why? Because it does not produce soot. It does not produce soot, therefore it does not dirtify the apparatus. And reason number 2 is it is hotter. It is hotter than the luminous flame. Therefore, it will take a shorter time for the heating to take place. Safety in the laboratory. Carrying out experiments in the laboratory should never be assumed to be completely harmless. These experiments should be considered as potential sources of danger, and therefore the chemicals and apparatus should be handled with a lot of care. The two common causes of accidents in the laboratory are ignorance and carelessness, and accidents can be minimized when safety rules are followed. Now, chemicals which have environmental and health impact must be stored in well-labeled containers with appropriate safety warning symbols clearly visible. Some of these warning symbols are like the ones shown. In the first case, we have a chemical symbol that shows corrosive. These are chemicals which can damage the body tissues and including eyes and skin. And therefore, such symbols should be clearly visible to the students. We have a symbol for pollution. This means that these chemicals should not be disposed to rich water bodies because this would kill the aquatic creatures. Another symbol is of flammability or flammable, and that means that particular chemical catches fire easily. We have the other symbol for irritating, which means that that particular chemical causes slight inflammation and discomfort to the body. Another one is about oxidizing, and it means that that particular chemical provides oxygen, which can cause flammable substances to burn quickly. We have the next one there. It's about explosive, and it means that it can shatter violently or burn apart. We have a simple for toxic, which means that that particular chemical can cause death if ingested or inhaled or in contact with the blood. Then we have a simple for radioactive, which means that it produces radiations that can cause death or cancer or mutations. Chemicals with such simples should be handled with a lot of care for the sake of the safety of the person handling such. Then we have said that we have some laboratory safety guideline rules, and we shall look at some of them. For example, you should never run in the laboratory because you may trip, fall, and injure yourself or others. Never test or eat anything in the laboratory to avoid poisoning. Label all chemicals to avoid confusion. Always use a clean spatula to scoop substances to avoid contamination. Always work on a clean bench. Always hold test tubes and boiling tubes using a test tube holder when heating to avoid being burned. Always put off flames that are not in use to avoid accidents and minimize fuel wastage. Always keep flammable substances away from flames because they can easily catch fire. Now, experiments in which poisonous gases are produced must be carried out in a fume chamber or in the open. In cases where we don't have a fume chamber, it can be carried out outside the laboratory in the open. Another rule is that do not carry unauthorized items from a chemistry laboratory. Students, don't pick anything actually from the laboratory and take it outside or carry it with you. Don't carry. Leave everything in the laboratory after class. In case of fire, remain calm and walk out. Do not scramble for the exit because doing so will hinder escape. So in case of fire, don't panic. Just walk out slowly and do not scramble for the exit. Never look directly into flasks or test tubes when reactions are taking place because the chemicals may spurt out and cause injury. Now, these are just some of the rules to observe while in the laboratory in order to avoid accidents. We have some more which are not included here, so we just took a section of the rules. Now, some of the questions which can be or have been asked from this particular subtopic include: number 1, why is the non-luminous flame preferred for heating in the laboratory? Now that is what we discussed in the first experiment, whereby we realized that it is hotter and it does not produce soot. Therefore, it does not dirtify the apparatus. The second question is, name 2 uses of a flame. Now here you're being asked of generally the uses of a flame, and we've already identified the 2 types of flames, whereby we have the luminous and the non-luminous flame. So basically you are being asked to state the uses of luminous and non-luminous flame. So, the luminous flame is used for lighting because it produces much light, while the non-luminous flame is used for heating because it is very hot and does not produce soot. Another question: why is it advisable to turn non-luminous flame into luminous flame when not in use? Now, one of the reasons is that the luminous flame burns less than the non-luminous flame, hence uses little fuel. So that is one of the reasons. The luminous flame uses less fuel. The non-luminous flame is less visible due to its blue color, while the luminous flame is large and brightly colored, which makes it more visible and hence reduces fire accidents in the laboratory. So those are the two reasons why the non-luminous flame should be changed to a luminous flame. Number 1, to save on fuel. Number 2, for visibility. Then question number 4. What is the first aid in case of a burn by an acid in the laboratory? If a student is burned by an acid or accidentally a drop of acid falls onto their skin, what is the first aid for such? And we have learned that is wash the burnt part with a lot of water, a lot of cold water. So the water will neutralize the acid and therefore reduce the impact. So wash the burnt part with a lot of water. Now, this marks the end of our lesson for today. And it also marks the end of the first topic in Form 1, which is Introduction to Chemistry. In the next lesson, we shall start off with the second topic, still on Form 1 work. So stay tuned, subscribe, comment, and in case of any questions, you can always reach out. Thank you so much and be blessed.